Peace and love, family, and welcome back to another Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, and I'm hoping this broadcast is working out well. Uh, we're here for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm glad to be able to be with you once again, as always, where we seek to bring you encouragement, inspire hope, share various insights with you that, at least from things that I've found to be fruitful in my own life and have made a huge difference in my life, and that I feel compelled to share with you all in hopes that these things might be useful for you and in your life journey as well. And so again, we offer insights, we share things that we hope will inspire you on some level, and we actually offer healing. We do healings during the Sunday Hope and Healing session. And we do that through a methodology referred to as transcending the matrix, which is a holistic based approach that really addresses the totality of a person's beingness, their spirit, their mind, their body, and their body of affairs, every aspect of a person's beingness. And we actually, a lot of times, even do live healings during the broadcast. If people come in with pain, there have been situations where we resolve people's pain on the spot and deal with a variety of other emotional things as well. And so on today, my screen is looking very different. I'm not seeing it the way that I am accustomed to being able to see it. And I'm hoping this is live. I can't see where the comments would typically be. Um, there's a lot that I'm not able to see. So anyway, here I am. I'm outside, as you can see, obviously. I had been looking for a number of places to broadcast from today. I just felt inclined to broadcast from outside. Um, but I had a little trouble with it. I was going to go by the pool, but the pool in the community where I live is closed because we just had yet another hurricane. Just had one 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and now we just had this other one. Well, this other one was a half a week ago, so I guess the other one was maybe 3 weeks ago now. So at any rate, last week, 2 weeks ago, I broadcast out from the Long Pier in St. Petersburg. That was just after one storm. Last week, our broadcast was really focusing on maintaining composure and finding peace in the midst of the storm. And now here I am after another storm. My whole family that lives in Tampa had evacuated. Uh, Most people's power was out. My power stayed connected. Anyway, long and the short of it is that there are a ton of places that are closed in Tampa, gas stations. Most gas stations don't have gas. Excuse me. It's a lot going on. And there is a ton of debris everywhere. And that kind of helped to inspire what angle to go at for today's session. I can barely see the screen. I don't know if anybody's commenting or not, but please comment and say hello. Um, it's always good to see who's here with us. Even it looks like Curly Conscious King. It's so bright out here, I can't actually see what's being said. But greetings to you, my brother. It's good to see you as always. It's good to have you in the space. And so, like I said earlier, there's a ton of debris that's been all over the place. And as we're dealing with last week, maintaining composure in the midst of the storm, you all who were tuned in 2 weeks ago saw me get slapped in the neck by something when this boy very close to me was fishing, and the hook got stuck in my shirt. And this happened while I was in the midst of praying. I got distracted just very briefly and then went right back into the prayer. And a lot of people were kind of fascinated by that on some level. And that kind of helped to inspire this concept of maintaining composure and keeping your peace in the midst of the storm that we focused on last week. And now this week, again, kind of dealing with this concept of clearing out the debris of your life. So a reality is that we're all going to face some storms at some point or another. We're all going to have some things that we're going to go through that gives us an opportunity to grow through those life experiences, right? It's a part of what it is to be human living on planet Earth. And no matter what your gender or ethnicity is, no matter what your education or financial status is, none of those things preclude you from being able to um, have to go through it at some point in time or another. We're all going to go through something at some point that's going to be a challenge to us based on who it is that we are and where it is that we are on our life journey. And that is actually a good thing. That is actually a good thing, even though it doesn't always feel like a good thing. And so when we have these different storms of life that come up, and it may be a financial storm, it may be a health storm, it may be a relationship storm, it may be any number of different things that you'll find have made their way to your doorstep and have brought challenges into your life experience, right? And so a lot of times when those storms come, and something I was talking with somebody today, actually, the latter part of this morning, there was this storm that came through. At some point, Hurricane Milton, at some point, it was a Category 5 hurricane with 160-mile-per-hour winds. It had calmed down to about 120, 125 miles per hour by the time it hit land, pretty close to Tampa. Um, and a lot happened. Like I said, most stores are closed. I haven't seen a restaurant yet that's open. Most gas stations are closed, and the ones that are open have, like yesterday, at least when I came back home, there are multiple hour-long lines for people to get fuel for their vehicles. And like I said, is that even as I look around now, there's a lot of debris. But as I look into the sky, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day. And no matter what the storm is, no matter how intense it might be, and I've been through a few storms, literally and figuratively, there's always a peace that follows the storm. Mm. Can you dig it? There's always a peace that follows. The Bible refers to this as beauty for ashes. There's some stuff that might come up that may be a significant challenge, but there's always a silver tint, right? There's always a silver tint, no matter how deep the clouds may get or how heavy the clouds may get. There's a silver tint, because behind the clouds is the sun still shining, as the poet once said. And yet, what I want to address with you today is, would you prefer in your life and in your life experience? And there's an answer that would seem obvious, but the answer isn't necessarily obvious. Would you prefer in your life experience, once you've experienced some hardship, once you've experienced some difficulty, once you've experienced a storm in your life, no matter what form that might have come in, would you prefer to just have the debris laying around and keeping you from being able to move in the way that you would otherwise like to move? Would you prefer, after you've been through hardship and difficulty, to just keep telling the story of your pain? Or would you prefer to get past it? Would you prefer to stay in that victim state? Would you prefer to stay in that victim state, or would you prefer to rise victoriously above it? Would you prefer to use what you went through as a way of manipulating people to get sympathy for what challenges you faced? Or would you like to use what you went through to propel you to newer heights, right? So 7 years ago, there was a hurricane in Houston. When I lived in Houston, the complex where I was living was underwater for a week and a half. I lived on the first floor. The complex ended up being condemned. And not even for the first time, I found myself homeless in Houston. right? Um, it was bad. It was bad. There was a stench that was all over the place. $1 million homes. There was a car graveyard where they had Rolls Royces and Corvettes and Lamborghinis and Fords and um, GMs and Chryslers and Hondas and whatever type of Ford, whatever type of vehicle you could think of or name. It was in this graveyard where all these vehicles had been totaled because they had been in the flood. People lost their homes. So many people lost their homes. So many people had to start over again. And I was one of those people. And very little of what I have now are things that I had before August of 2017. Um, but I made a conscious decision to not say that I lost everything, but that I released everything. It's a very different place to stand. Loss can have you in a state of feeling sorry for yourself. But release, you know, you can't control some things. You can't control some external realities that may manifest themselves in your life. I wasn't able to control the fact that what happened happened. But what I was able to control was my internal response to it. Greetings, Renee. Good to have you in this space. And I'm sending a bunch of love and compassion in your direction on today. We can't control always what happens, but we can control what our response to what happens is, right? And so I want to, on some level, encourage you in terms of whatever it is that you might be facing or whatever it is that you might have faced that might have left some damage behind. You know, it there are things in life that change us, right? There's certainly some things that I've experienced in life that have changed me. I'm not the same person that I was prior to August 2017. I'm not the same person that I was prior to going through 2 divorces. I'm not the same person that I was before I experienced various and sundry difficulties and challenges and things that really didn't feel good in the moment in my lifetime. And yet I've been graced to always come out on top. And I'm not always coming out on top because there's something uniquely special about me. I'm always coming out on top because by some grace of God, at some point, I'm able to remember that the story has already been written, that the battle has already been fought, and the victory has already been won. And so before whatever problems, before whatever challenges, before whatever storms might arise, the solution is already there waiting for us, right? In a very real and true sense. I know that we experience time. We experience time as past, present, and future, but in the mind of God that transcends physical matter and space. Physical matter and space are 2 things that are required for time to take place because time is literally, by definition, the measure of an object moving through space, right? But what is more real than physical and space is merely the void that exists between physical objects, right? And so if we take all of that away and we rise above this earth realm and we rise above the realm of the 3rd dimensional beliefs of separation and limitation that's rooted in fear or false evidence that appears real, and there's a whole lot of evidence that would seek to convict us in the belief that it is real. There's a greater reality, there's a greater truth that transcends all of this. And in the stillness of the infinitude of the grace and the peace and the heart and the mind of God is a place where past, present, and future aren't things that happen in succession, but where all time is happening at once. And this is how God knows the end from the beginning, because in the mind of God, the way, in the perception, in the perspective of God, the solution has already been worked out. God already sees us as safe and secure. God already sees us as delivered and redeemed. God already sees that point where every valley is exalted and every hill is made low, where the crooked places are made straight, and all of the ends of the earth see the salvation of the Lord. In other words, God is always in a state of peace about our well being, even though we get confused repeatedly, consistently, and even incessantly along the way. Now, I know that some of this stuff that I'm saying might be somewhat high level talk in terms of various dimensions of existence and a realm in which time doesn't exist, and time being something that isn't actually linear, but that time is like a ball, that it's always happening at once, simultaneously, just like God is always everywhere equally present, that there's no spot that God is not. But I know that that can be a little bit difficult sometimes for one to wrap their brain around that, right? But what I want to do right now is I want to offer some healing to whether you get that intellectually or not, whether or not that's something that you can process in a way that actually makes sense for you. I want to do something for all of us energetically that actually helps to bring us into alignment with being able to stand strong in a state of well-being and relieve ourselves of the addiction to hold on to the debris that follows after the storms of our life, right? I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were sharing how not that long ago, I believe it was last year, they made a trip to Puerto Rico, and there were still situations going on in Puerto Rico where they still didn't have traffic lights working from a hurricane that had taken place many years ago, right? Many years ago, and this is no indictment on the infrastructure in Puerto Rico, nor the people in Puerto Rico. I just want to use this as an illustration in another sense to say that we're incredibly blessed. And we're blessed much more than we give ourselves permission to recognize. We're blessed so much more than we give ourselves permission to recognize most, if not all of the time. And there are some things that some people experience externally that others don't. And there are folk who seem to, and many people have it all, and try to jump out of windows of high-rise buildings. Because even though it may seem externally like they have it all, they're internally empty. And there are people who don't have a whole lot. There are people who don't have a whole lot. There are people who are dealing with challenges with their health. There are people who've buried loved ones who are very near and dear to them. There are people who, not in the best financial place. There are people who have a lot of different things going on in their lives, and you wouldn't know it by looking at them, because they have a certain resilience. They have a certain joy. They have a certain peace about them. They choose to base how it is that they feel, not upon whatever their external circumstances are, but based upon the internal environment that they choose to have in their life. Okay? I don't know how long it's going to take for all of this debris that is, and there's a bunch of it, all of this debris that's around Central Florida to be cleared up. I don't know for each one of you what the timetable will be for your choosing to move forward in your life, to allow the past to be in the past, the pains from the past, the rejection from the past, the betrayal from the past, the heartbreak from the past, the loss from the past. And I'm not trying to minimize anybody's life experience at all. Please understand that. What I do want to offer, though, is an opportunity for us to be able to clear out the debris so that we can navigate life more smoothly, so that we can exist in a greater state of flow, right? So that we can actually be an open channel for a magnitude of wonderful things to flow into our lives, which is wonderful, but also for an abundance of blessings and good to flow through us, for good to flow through us, right? And so I'm going to start off with a prayer, and we're going to get into the healing. And God, I just want to thank you first and foremost for the beautiful privilege of being able to demonstrate you as a healer. You are a healer, and there's nothing that's beyond your healing power. There's no problem that's too big for you, in the way that it's worded in A Course in Miracles, that there's no order of difficulties in miracles, that each miracle is equally easy to you. And God, I thank you for this wonderful gift to be able to stand in the gap on the behalf of my brothers and sisters who are tuning in today, to demonstrate you as a healer through the union that we share through your Holy Spirit and the power of your pure love, neutralizing the root cause of the existence and hindrance of the debris that we might be facing in our lives that keep us from being able to navigate life with the grace and the efficiency and the flow that you would have for us to move in and to dwell in and to have our being in. From the point of the root cause and the entire energetic structure of every strand of DNA in every cell of the body of each one of us who's tuned into this healing, and transmuting that into and replacing it with a joy and a peace and a fulfillment and a childlike innocence and playfulness, celebrating victoriously the freedom that comes with being a clear and pure vessel through which your goodness can flow. So we experience it in our lives because it flows in us and to us, and also that we can actually serve as a catalyst for in the lives of other people as well, because the good flows through us also. And so, God, I thank you for this wonderful gift and this wonderful healing, and I bear witness to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you, God. Thank you so much for this gift of your divine love. And I affirm it is done. It is done. It is done. Ashe and amen. All right. So let's get into the healing, folks. Let's get into the healing. So let's look at our attachment to our story. We've all got a story. And sometimes we get attached to the story. And we actually strengthen the story by our repeated telling of it. And so we can choose to tell the old story, the story that is limiting, the story that is debilitating, the story that weakens us, or we can tell a new story. We can tell a story that empowers us, that strengthens us, that elevates us, that lifts us up, that encourages us and inspires us. All right. So we're going to neutralize the attachment to the story that weakens us and the addiction to that story and the cumulative effects of telling that story, and transmute that into and replacing it with um, telling the story of our victory, telling the story of our overcoming, telling the story of our um, empowerment and our victory, and to be able to do so from a space of joy. And even to be able to tell that story before we get there in our experience, so that we can actually line up with the desired outcome, that we can actually be in alignment with our victory, with our transformation, right? Okay. All right. Okay. So now I want to take a moment and I want to look at, we did this last week, and I want to actually again revisit the limbic system. The limbic system is highly connected to um, the part of our memory that's connected to emotions. So there's a part of the brain that registers like facts, just based on facts, and remembers that way. And then there is a part of our brain that actually remembers things that are connected with memories, that are connected with emotional states. So you might smell something and it might take you back to your grandmother's kitchen, for instance, right? Because there's because there's certain things that come to you more readily. Those memories tend to get etched more deeply, and that part of the brain tends to deteriorate less quickly. All right. So we want to let's deal with and address these negative memories held within the limbic system, coupled with more deeply entrenching neural pathways within the brain because of the stories that we've repeatedly told ourselves and that we've repeatedly told others in a covert attempt to gain people's sympathy. I'm just going to call it like it is. If I step on any toes, it's not intentionally to hurt you, but to set free. We're going to address that. We're going to be in integrity about the places where we're not always in integrity, and we're going to purify that and transmute that into something that is much more empowering and that actually helps to um, benefit us in our endeavor to grow spiritually, to be who it is that we ultimately really are, to be in our to live out in our actual life experience the truth of who it is that we were divinely designed to be. All right. And so I want to strengthen that part of our resolve, our internal resolve, that helps us to stand in a greater degree of spiritual integrity, and neutralizing that part of those character deficiencies within ourselves that might lead us to compromise a sense of integrity. Okay. And let me talk about integrity for a moment. I'm not talking about integrity from the standpoint of a value judgment. As I look around at all of these uprooted trees, these trees that are on the ground, these limbs of trees that are on the ground, what happened is that the heavy winds caused the structure, the structural, the structural integrity of the trees to be compromised. All right. It didn't mean that the trees lost value. It didn't mean that the trees were morally corrupt. It meant that they were weakened, right? And so when your integrity is compromised, you are weakened. When the integrity of who you really are is compromised, you overall are weakened. When you're weakened, when your vibrational rate drops, you become more susceptible to hurt, harm, danger, and illness. We don't want you to be in a state where you are more likely to experience the hurt, harm, danger, and illness. We want you to be in a state where you have a greater immunity, right? We want to elevate your vibration so that you can, again, be in that flow state so that even when things happen, you can move with it, right? I don't see any, by the way, although I do see uprooted trees, I don't see any uprooted palm trees, because the nature of the palm tree is that it has a certain elasticity to it that allows it to bend and sway in the midst of the harsh wind so that it doesn't end up getting uprooted. Because some of the other trees are more rigid, they're not able to flow with the storm and whatever it's bringing. Its structural integrity ends up being compromised. Whereas because the palm tree is able to flow with whatever might be coming, whatever the storm might bring, it may have palms that might fall off, but the tree still lives because it's still rooted, and it's still rooted because it was able to bend and flow and move and navigate through the challenges that were presented. And so, like the palm tree, want you to be able to navigate the challenges that come your way with a sense of grace, right? So we want to boost your ability to move in a sense of grace. All right, now, with respect to moving with a sense of grace, connected with that is also extending grace. All right. Grace is its own frequency. You're less likely to experience grace yourself if you aren't inclined to extend grace outwardly. All right. So we want you to be in alignment with grace so that you are experiencing grace internally, that you're able to move through life gracefully because you're not hindered by the debris. And the debris is really just a metaphor for stuff that's hanging out in your aura, stuff that's hanging out in your mind, stuff that's hanging out in your consciousness that is no longer serving you and that no longer can add value to your life experience. That which just needs to be cleared out, right? And so I want to boost all of us to be able to have a forgiving spirit, to not so easily become offended by other people's issues. And I say that very specifically, other people's issues. Somebody else's behavior doesn't have to become your issue. Somebody else's behavior may simply be a function of their own unresolved issues. But that doesn't mean that you have to over empathize in such a way that you have to take on that reality for yourself as well. And then you now have an issue just because they have an issue. Somebody else can have an issue, but that doesn't mean you've got to have an issue, right? Okay, so let's resolve that. Let's resolve that and then allow you to be able to dwell in an empowered space that allows you to be able to establish healthy boundaries about yourself. Healthy boundaries regarding you in terms of what vibrations you choose to align with and participate with. Whether you're going to choose to get caught up in the negativity or whether you're going to choose to dwell in a state of peace. Because peace is what you declare for your life. And because peace is what you choose for your life, you choose to not get caught up in other people's foolishness. Now, that's not to say that you're callous towards people. I'm a minister and a healer, and part of what I do is be there for people in their times of crisis and in their times of challenges and pain. I'm not saying that you avoid people who deal with things, who are in pain or things of that nature. What I am saying is that you operate from a space within yourself to where you are deciding for you and for your life that you choose to participate with energy that's going to support the highest and best good of everyone, right? And when you're not in a space to help, some people just prefer to just stay in their drama. Some people prefer to just dwell in negativity. And you may not be able to pull them out of that. You can give them the grace to be where they are and give yourself the grace to be where you are. Greetings, Melissa Kelly. Happy Sunday to you as well. All right, so now let's strengthen us to extend our spiritual borders like a force field of light, like a force field of light around you that simultaneously protects you from being negatively impacted by the stuff that other people might be carrying, as well as force field of light to when other people are in your presence, when other people are exposed to your aura, it's able to, on some level, improve their vibration, improve their uh, internal state, right? Some people are going to stay in negativity regardless because that's just where they choose to be. But we're going to boost and strengthen our auric field, our force field of light, so that it makes it harder for people to do that. Now, whether they choose to dwell in the negativity or not, that's really not your business. You know, they have their free will to use as they choose, but we can actually extend our own light quotient. Okay, so that we're operating in the light, in an extent that is more likely to help inspire people, um, and to bring a greater sense of peace into people's life experience. Okay. So now, with respect to that, let's look at non-attachment to the outcome in terms of whether or not our peace of mind or whether or not our sense of internal well-being, whether that positively impacts someone else or not. Because sometimes, if I can just call it like it is, sometimes we want to do things or make changes within us to manipulate somebody else so that they'll do differently too. If they can just see what difference has been made in my life, maybe they'll make the difference in their life too. And sometimes it happens that way and sometimes it doesn't, beloved. And whichever one happens, it's okay. So I want to strengthen you to be able to find peace in whatever decision another human being might make. Okay. Their story doesn't have to be your story. Their reality doesn't have to be your reality. And their life experience doesn't have to be something that you take on as your fault. Okay. All right. Now, with that said, I want to boost all of us to elevate our serotonin levels. Serotonin actually helps create a sense of well-being, right? We get addicted sometimes to the dopamine. The dopamine kind of can give us a little bit of a rush and it gives a sense of reward. But dopamine tends to be something that people will chase after. And again, it creates that addiction. You know, you get a little bit of a dopamine hit when there's a notification on your phone, which is why you have to look at it all the time, right? Because you're looking for that dope fix, that dopamine fix. All right. So let's actually boost the serotonin to optimal levels so that we can have that actually sense of internal well-being such that we don't have to chase after the reward all the time. Okay. But we can enjoy the journey as a whole. Okay. All right. All right. Now something I want to address, which is something I address a lot on the Sunday Hope and Healing sessions, is the collective consciousness of humanity. Within the collective consciousness of humanity, it's not necessarily the case that most people on the planet currently want to dwell in a state of divine well-being consciously. So we want to deal with in terms of, and yet we all feed into and we all draw from the collective consciousness. So I want to first look at the collective consciousness of humanity. I want to look at collective consciousness of people in the Western Hemisphere. Okay. I want to look at collective consciousness of, and for this, I'm not going to specify. I want you to specify internally within yourself, collective consciousness of people who've been through the specific trauma that you've been through, whatever that specific trauma is. So whereas everybody has something that's nuanced from everybody else. There are other groups of people. There are groups of people who've been through that same trauma that you've been through. So whatever that trauma is, we're actually providing healing for that as it relates to the collective consciousness of that group of people, or those groups of people. All right, so let's look at, I want to deal with for a moment psychological imprints. Psychological imprints going back 16 centuries. All right, psychological imprints. Remember what I was saying about time earlier. Again, we're not going to get caught up in that. We're not going to make a big deal of how many generations back that's going or how many centuries back that's going. We're just going to address it as it relates to the healing. I have water, but I left it way over there. Maybe I can grab it. Well, I don't know if I can grab it without messing up the mic situation. So I'll worry about it later. All right, so I want to deal with specifically now the collective consciousness of your family, the collective consciousness of where you grew up and where you were reared. Okay. And I want to deal with the collective consciousness. I want to deal with the collective consciousness of people who choose to people who choose to dwell in fear and realign consciousness to those who choose to dwell in divine truth. Okay. All right. I'm distinguishing truth from facts, by the way. I'm speaking of truth in the context, divine truth in the context of that which is eternal. Belief systems change over millennia, but divine truth is eternal. Divine truth is eternal. So I want to strengthen all of us to align our conscious mind to dwell in alignment with the reality of our eternal beingness and the reality of the eternal beingness of the one who made us. Okay. Where love and peace reign supreme. All right. I have no idea what time it is. I can't see. There's nothing on my phone indicating that. If somebody can drop the time in the comments, I really appreciate that. Okay. All right. So let's take a moment now and look at. I want to look at 150. Okay. Thank you, Kimberly Graham. I appreciate that, and welcome to the space. All right. There was something that just came up. I don't consciously recall what it is, but we're going to boost that, whatever that, or address that, whatever that was, and strengthen us all where that's concerned. Okay. All right. And I want to actually want to address the base of our spine. Okay. The base of your spine, and the base of your spine is the first cell that you ever were. And from there, grew all of the other cells of your body. But that's where the root of your life experience on planet Earth is really tied to, right? And so there are some issues, there's some foundational issues that we sometimes have. And so I want to address and clear out the debris that has come from our early life experiences, things that might not even be in our conscious awareness, from things that we experienced, in the very early portions of our life on planet Earth, even before we were born, even to fetal trauma that there might have been when we were yet in the womb. Okay. Ooh, big break there. So let's transmute that fetal trauma to the power of God's pure love, and transmute it into original innocence, a state of original innocence. Okay. All right. All right. Now let's look at birth trauma, resolving, the birth trauma, as well as negative psychological experiences from the first 7 years of our life. All right. I'll look at a number. Kimberly Graham Williams. Oh, okay. I didn't realize who that was at first. Okay. Thank you. Good to see you in the space. All right. So let's actually strengthen all of us. Let's strengthen all of us to some things that have been a part of our life for a long time, we look at as a companion, and we have a fear of letting go. So let's address that fear of letting go. Let's look at the fear of letting go of the past. Let's look at the fear of letting go of how we wanted things to be that never materialized. And to be able to forgive who we were in the past, and to create healthier, a lot of things that we do even now is a result from coping mechanisms that we developed for the sake of our survival when we were very young. All right, so in this now moment, let's actually make space for developing healthier life strategies and developing much more useful and beneficial tools to be able to navigate the situations that come up in life as they arise. Okay. All right. So with these tools, it makes it easier to let go or clear out the debris or let go of that which has felt like maybe a companion because it's been in our life for so long. So, with respect to that, let's also address the fear of the unknown, okay? Because we know the hell that we've been through, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And sometimes it can feel safer hanging out in the painful experience or the unhealthy relationship or the job that we know we're not valued or whatever the situation is, because it feels safe, because it's familiar, even though it really isn't safe at all. But to be able to actually find safety, a sense of safety and a sense of security, by placing our hands in the hand of God, knowing that God is leading us to some place that is going to support our highest and best good. Okay? All right. And to really be able to trust that God has our best interest at heart. And to make room for the possibility that we might not actually have all the answers, but there may be wonderful answers awaiting us. I feel kind of excited about that one. All righty. Okay. All right. Now let's take a moment, and I'm just going to kind of clear out some general things. We're going to look at various levels of the matrix. Grid lines within the matrix going to clear out 286 million. Don't worry about the number, no matter how big the number is. Just like hitting the C button on the calculator, it addresses it all at one time. All right. All right. And let's also address our perception of our right perception of the healing, to be able um, to see rightly and to perceive the healing that has actually taken place, and to welcome it, make room for it, thoroughly and completely embrace it. Okay. Okay. All right. As I hear all these sirens in the background, I don't know what the emergency is, but I'm going to use that as a catalyst to address the things that come up for us where it feels like the end of the world, like the sky is falling. Um, but in the end, to be able to know and trust that it always works out one way or the other. All right. To be able to truly trust that in the end we win. Greetings, Karen. It's good to see you in the space today. And I'm doing quite well, thank you. I hope you are also. Okay. Let's look at um, deleting the notion that it takes time for the healing to take place, and opening up space for the fact that the healing could be now. Excuse me, that the healing could even have taken place a minute ago and it's already fulfilled. And to be able to dwell in that, fully embrace that, and to celebrate that. Okay. Thank you, God. Okay. And now I'm going to do two more, and then we're gonna close it out. And one is accepting ourselves for the times where we didn't allow ourselves to experience the fullness of what we could have. Forgiving ourselves for the time that we held on to the debris. Having compassion to that former version of ourselves. And walking hand in hand, our our younger little girl or little boy that didn't get some needs met, bringing that person into the present as a healed being. Mm. And able to walk forward throughout the remainder of life from a state of divine well-being. God, thank you so much for this healing that's been able to take place on behalf of us today, on behalf of all of us who aligned with it and who receive it. I pray your blessings upon, your bountiful, bright blessings upon everyone who's tuned in to today's broadcast, who have chosen to invest in their own well-being, to invest the time that they were here with us because they choose to stand up for themselves and welcome into their life experience something more beautiful than what they previously experienced, no matter how ugly or how beautiful that might have been. It's such a joy and privilege to be able to do this for these Sunday Hope and Healing sessions, and I'm honored by it. And I thank you for these and all other blessings that you shower upon us. And I affirm it is a done deal. Ashe and amen. All right, beloveds. As always, it's been wonderful. Hey, check this out. It just dawned on me. I didn't mention this earlier, but 2 weeks from now, we're going to be having a Transcending the Matrix class. Perhaps I'll see some of you there. God has really blessed me. I'm a really, really, really blessed man. And I'm not saying this as a boast on me. I'm not special because I'm blessed. I'm not blessed because I'm special, right? We're all equally special. You're just as special as I am. I'm very thankful that I've been blessed to be some of the places that I've been and to have experienced some of the things that I've experienced. And one of the most beautiful, transformative things I've ever experienced is transcending the matrix. And I want to share that with you so that you can experience that too, and that you can help other people have that experience. It's a wonderful thing. I'm telling you, y'all, it's a wonderful thing. If you're interested at all, the class is 2 weekends from now, the 25th through the 27th of October. And the beautiful thing is that it's on Zoom. We are going to be looking to do an in-person class soon, but this is on Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you are on the planet physically, you'll be able to participate in the class. If you're interested, reach out to me at Royce Fletcher Thomason, either on Instagram or on Facebook Messenger, and let me know that you're interested. I'll get the registration form to you, and also an oath, and we'll complete that registration process and get the materials to you that you'll need, which I actually send snail mail. So please, again, reach out to me and make haste in doing so. Also want to mention, if there's something that there's a topic that you'd like to see and hear addressed, reach out to me and share that. I would say in the comments. If you're commenting on Facebook Live, I won't see that comment after the live broadcast is completed. If you play it after the live broadcast, I will be able to see it. And the comments stay on YouTube. But if there's a topic that you'd like me to address, or there's a particular area in your body where you have pain, we'll address that pain on the spot during the Sunday Hope and Healing session. But again, just leave a comment and we'll address that. Now, if you tell me about an issue that you're having personally, and I'm going to address it that day, I'm going to need you to show up. I'm going to need you to love yourself enough to show up and give yourself the benefit of the experience of having it healed. You're worthy of it, beloved. You really are. You really are. Well, anyway, that wraps us up for today's Sunday Hope and Healing session. As we continue to endeavor to enter into that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. Until we meet again, I bid you adieu with peace and love, and I'll catch you next time.